The sky above Vexor Delta burned green with plasma fire. Every sensor aboard the Vorthan Dominion flagship shrieked warnings in a dozen languages as kinetic strikes tore through its shielding. Metallic rain fell from orbit, chunks of shattered hull, vaporized drones, and the skeletal remains of what had once been proud ships of the Galactic Coalition. High Strategos Tvorak clutched the railing of his command platform, mandibles flexing with fury. His forces, 12 fleets strong, were supposed to hold this system easily. Yet the enemy fought like a phantom, invisible until it struck, vanishing before counterfire could even lock on. "Status of the Western defensive grid?" he barked. "Collapsed, Strategos," answered his sensor officer, her crest flickering with static. "The human ships bypass the minefields again. Their stealth patterns are unreadable," Tvorak hissed. "Primitive vermin. They should not even have stealth fields." No one dared correct him. The humans, the newest species to reach the stars, had already humiliated half the Council's navies. Their colonies were small, but their tactics unpredictable. They did not fight by the books written over millennia. They wrote their own. A tremor shook the command deck. Another explosion rippled through the ship's lower decks, filling the bridge with acrid smoke. Through the viewport, a strange silhouette glided across the void, sleek, black, and angular, like a blade slicing through light. Its engines emitted no heat signature, no radiation trace. Just motion. "Identify that vessel," Tvorak roared. "Unknown class," said the comms officer, panic in his voice. "It matches no record, wait, signal detected. It's broadcasting silence." Silence. The bridge fell into a chill hush. Across alien cultures, silence was never used as a transmission. It was insult, challenge, declaration of war. And now the humans were using it as their signature. The human ship's shadow passed over them once more, and suddenly, its hull lit with hundreds of microthrusters. The void itself seemed to flare. Then the Vorthan flagship's forward half simply ceased to exist. No explosion, just disintegration. Nanofracture rounds had hit it, slicing through hull and reactor alike at relativistic speed. Half the bridge crew was thrown into vacuum before emergency fields sealed the breach. "Retreat!" Tvorak howled. "Signal all remaining fleets. Fall back to defensive line 3. The command relay officers scrambled to obey. Holograms flickered, status feeds from scattered ships, all the same. Catastrophic losses, failing engines, and a new human ambush every 30 seconds. "Sir, what about the colonies below?" someone asked. "They're evacuation ships." "Forget the colonies. Send the call for reinforcements." Tvorak snapped. "Activate the galactic relay. Call the entire coalition if you must." His voice trembled, not with cowardice but disbelief. This couldn't be happening. The humans were supposed to be surrounded, contained on the edges of civilized space. Yet here they were, cutting through fleets that had ruled the stars since before Earth discovered fire. Lights dimmed as the long-range relay core charged. A pulsing sphere of hyper-encoded light appeared, tethered to the main comm array. Tvorak leaned close, mandibles twitching in frustration. "To all coalition sectors," he began, voice echoing through every open channel. "This is Strategos Tvorak of the Dominion. Our defense lines at Vexor Delta are collapsing. The Terrans have deployed an unknown strike force, coordinated, intelligent, and lethal. I require immediate reinforcement from all sectors. Now." He paused, forcing his next words through gritted teeth. "Failure to respond will result in the loss of this system and, possibly, the spread of human aggression into the core worlds." He hit transmit. The signal shot through subspace, bouncing between relay nodes, heading for the Coalition's heart worlds, and, unknowingly, beyond. Hours later, in the ashes of orbit, the surviving alien ships formed a trembling perimeter. No more attacks came. The humans had vanished. Tvorak stood by the viewport, watching a field of drifting wreckage. "They'll be back," he muttered. And when they do, we will be ready. Sir, said his aide nervously, they think they've frightened us. They have only ensured their extinction. He turned to his officers. Rebuild the outer sensor grid. Arm every weapon. When the reinforcements arrive, we will crush these upstarts once and for all. A dozen officers saluted, though few believed his confidence. Outside, tiny shapes moved among the debris. Human drones, silent, unseen, recording everything. Elsewhere, far from Vexor Delta, the distress signal raced across the void, through wormhole conduits, past dead relay stations, and across neutral zones. Its encryption was complex, coalition military grade. But humanity had already cracked those codes. On the far side of Luna, orbiting above a cradle of gray rock and history, a listening station intercepted the signal. It was instantly flagged and routed to Earth Defense Command. Within minutes, it reached the war room beneath the surface of Geneva. A holographic representation of the alien Strategos appeared midair, his desperate message looping on repeat. At the central table, Admiral Rhea Donovan watched in silence, arms crossed. Her steel-gray eyes reflected the hologram's flickering light. Coalition reinforcements, huh? Murmured one of her aides. They're calling for help. Rhea said nothing for several seconds. Then she gave a small, almost amused smile. Help, she repeated softly. After bombing our outposts and executing our medics? Her aide looked uneasy. What are your orders, ma'am? She turned toward the fleet status display, rows upon rows of ready vessels, the UHS Vengeance, Resolute, Titanfall, and hundreds more. Each bore the insignia of the Unified Human Defense Network, the alliance formed after the siege of Mars. They called for backup, Rhea said, voice cold and deliberate. Let's show them what that means on Earth. The stars above Vexor Delta flickered faintly that night, as if space itself sensed something moving, something vast and old in its purpose. The aliens waited for their reinforcement. They didn't yet know that humanity had already heard their cry. And humanity was on its way. The command hall beneath Geneva Defense Complex was a cathedral of steel and light. Rows of holotables mapped the Milky Way in living detail, sectors pulsing red where human blood had been spilled. The Council's banners had once hung here during peace conferences. Now they were replaced by the flags of every united nation of Earth, illuminated by cold, tactical blue. Admiral Rhea Donovan stood at the center dais, arms clasped behind her back, uniform immaculate, expression unreadable. Around her, the Joint Command Board of the Unified Human Defense Network watched the intercepted alien distress signal on repeat. This is Strategos Tvorok of the Dominion. The Terrans have deployed an unknown strike force. I require immediate reinforcement. The hologram froze midward as Rhea waved her hand. Enough, she said. We've confirmed the source? Yes, Admiral, replied Commander Imani-Chun, her second-in-command. Origin point, Vexor Delta System. 2 coalition sectors out from the Perseus frontier. They're expecting backup fleets within 72 hours. Good, Rhea said. Then we'll arrive in 60. A murmur rippled through the room. The old general from the Martian Guard cleared his throat. Admiral, are we initiating a formal declaration? Rhea turned slightly, eyes glinting beneath the war table's glow. They declared first, when they bombed the Marius outpost and fired on the Hippocrates, a medical ship under peace flag. This is not a declaration. It's a response. No one argued. Earth's arsenal awakens. Across the solar system, humanity's engines of war came alive. From the shipyards over Luna, titanic silhouettes drifted free, 40-kilometer dreadnoughts, hulls plated with obsidian armor and glowing lines of quantum resonance. The UHS Vengeance led them, its prow carved with the motto, "If you want peace, prepare for annihilation." Further out, in the Titan drydock rings, carrier groups began to move. Hundreds of strike craft were prepped and armed, fighters piloted by humans, AIs, and symbiotic drones working as one. On Mars, railgun towers tested their orbital cannons, each slug massing 30 tons, magnetically accelerated to near-light velocity. The recoil alone could shift the tower's orbit, and in the asteroid fields, fold space relays were being calibrated, a technology stolen, improved, and perfected from the same aliens who once called humanity primitive. Inside the Vengeance's hangar bay, thousands of personnel swarmed across decks the size of small cities. Sparks rained from repair gantries as engineers tuned jump drives and shield harmonics. Captain Elena Price, commander of the Vengeance's engineering corps, shouted over the noise. Fleet cores are hot and stable. Quantum coils at full synchronization. We're ready for hell, Admiral. Ria's voice came over the comm calmly. Good. Hell's waiting. War room dialogue. Back aboard the Vengeance's command bridge, the crew assembled. It was humanity's greatest warship, part dreadnought, part fortress, part legend. Holograms of the other fleet commanders flickered into view: Admiral Hideo Tanaka of the Resolute, Commodore Juno Vargas of the Nemesis, and Rear Admiral Ortega commanding the carrier Dauntless. Tanaka gave a wry half-smile. I see the coalition's asking for help again. Ria nodded. They'll get it. Just not the kind they expect. Juno leaned forward, grinning. So, rules of engagement? Ria's gaze hardened. We transmit no warnings, no ultimatums, and no mercy. Every ship in the Vexor Delta system bearing coalition signature is to be neutralized. Civilians and medics are to be spared, but their fleets, command nodes, and supply chains will cease to exist. Ortega raised a brow. Understood. But if the Council intervenes? Ria's answer was quiet, cold. Then they'll learn what happens when you back a cornered species. The jump. The Vengeance's bridge went silent as countdowns began across the fleet. Massive jump rings unfolded in orbit above Earth, petals of white light forming around each ship. Energy rippled through the void like a heartbeat. Fleet synchronization complete, reported Chen. Fold space coordinates locked. Vexor Delta entry vector plotted through 5 relay point. Estimated arrival in 59.7 hours. Confirm final authorization, said Ria. Her command key slid into the control console, glowing red. All vessels, prepare for Operation Retribution Protocol. The words echoed through every comm channel in the fleet. The stars themselves seemed to pause. Then, reality bent. Space folded inward, light collapsing into a single point before exploding outward in a silent flash. One by one, humanity's warships vanished, leaving only rippling shockwaves and whispers of static. The journey between worlds. Inside folded space, the human fleet streaked across dimensions. The viewports shimmered with distorted starlight, galaxies stretched like liquid across a black ocean. Within the strange luminescence, ghostly shapes appeared, echoes of destroyed worlds, fragments of lost transmissions. It was beautiful and terrifying all at once. Ria stood by the main viewport, hands clasped behind her back. Do you ever wonder, she said softly, what they think of us now? Commander Chun turned. The coalition? Yes. They saw a species that crawled out of its cradle barely a century ago. They thought we'd never reach them. Chen smirked faintly. They were right, until we decided to. Ria's lips curved, just slightly. That's the thing about humanity. We don't stop when we reach the stars. We ask what's next. Interlude. The signal returns. Far away, in the Vexor Delta system, Strategos Tvorakes fleets still licked their wounds. He paced the bridge of his rearmed flagship, glaring at the hollow screen showing the approaching coalition reinforcements, hundreds of ships marked with friendly signatures. His aide bowed. Strategos, the reinforcements will arrive within 2 days. Good, Tvorak said. The humans have vanished, and when they return, we will bury them under 1,000 hulls. Then, without warning, every screen flickered. A strange human transmission forced its way into their communications. It was short, simple, and horrifying. Backup received. Incoming. Tvorak's breath caught. What? Return to the fleet. Back aboard the Vengeance, alarms flared. The fleet was emerging from fold space. Exit Vector Stable, said Chen. We're 0.7 light hours from Vexor Delta. Coalition fleets detected. Massive concentration. Admiral, they've gathered every ship they have. Rhea stepped onto the command platform, her voice steady. Then let's make history. The Vengeance's main cannons began to charge, lighting the void like dawn. Across the fleet, weapons came online, forming a web of energy and precision. No war drums. No speeches. Just readiness. Rhea looked out into the endless dark and whispered. You called for backup. We brought the fleet. The Vexor Delta system was a graveyard in waiting. Coalition reinforcements had arrived in perfect formation. 6,000 warships spanning 20 species, glittering like a silver web across the void. The fleets surrounded the burned wrecks of Tvorak's earlier defeat, their command ships broadcasting coded triumph. To them, the presence of so many vessels meant safety, overwhelming numbers that would crush whatever had dared humiliate them before. High Strategos Tvorak stood on his bridge, watching the incoming waves of cruisers and carriers appear on his tactical display. His confidence had returned, restored by numbers and arrogance. Status report, he barked. Reinforcements at full readiness, Strategos. Shield harmonics synchronized. Fire controls linked to central targeting arrays. Tvorak's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. Excellent. Let them come. This time, the humans will meet civilization's true strength. He turned to the comms officer. Open broadcast channels to the fleet commanders. Dozens of alien faces filled the air, reptilian, avian, crystalline, insectoid, each one brimming with overconfidence. This enemy you faced, said an admiral from the Draenix Ascendancy, voice haughty and cold. A small raiding detachment, yes? You called the full coalition for this. Tvorak stiffened. Do not underestimate them. They move like ghosts. Their weapons. Enough excuses, another interrupted. Our combined firepower will vaporize any human fleet before they even cross the system's edge. The Council of Commanders erupted into laughter, feeding on shared arrogance. Tvorak forced a smile. Of course. Let us show these Terrans that the galaxy belongs to its elders. The distortion. Hours later, the laughter died. The first anomaly appeared on the system's far rim, just a flicker of space, a distortion like heat haze across the stars. Sensor glitch, muttered one operator. Then another appeared. And another. Multiple gravitational ripples detected, shouted the tactical officer. Not asteroids, fold space ruptures. Dozens, no hundreds. The bridge filled with rising static as instruments went haywire. Across the fleet, alien captains scrambled to recalibrate scanners. Tvorak's aide whispered, Sir, they're coming through. The arrival. Reality tore open. From the folds of bent space emerged humanity's answer, a fleet so vast it seemed to eclipse the stars. At its center, the UHS Vengeance burst into real space, her hull gleaming obsidian black, flanked by carriers the size of moons. Behind them followed legions of destroyers, cruisers, and autonomous gun platforms, all linked through quantum command lattice. Their formation was silent, symmetrical, perfect, like a blade drawn from its sheath. Every alien sensor screamed at once. The power readings were beyond scale. Tvorak's mandibles went rigid. Impossible, there must be 1,000 ships. His aide corrected softly, closer to 1,200 strategos, and their energy output dwarfs ours tenfold. The comms channels erupted into chaos. Identify yourself. Unknown fleet, transmit your credentials. Coalition jurisdiction, who are you? Then came a single voice, calm and unmistakably human. This is Admiral Rhea Donovan of Earth. The words carried across every frequency, even through jammed signals and encrypted network. You called for backup. We're here to help. A beat of silence followed, a pause so deep it seemed the stars themselves held their breath. Then impact. The first strike. Without warning, the human fleet fired. No dramatic countdown. No hesitation. Thousands of mass driver slugs streaked across space, invisible except for the blue shockwaves that followed. They hit the coalition's forward line in under 2 seconds. 50 warships disintegrated instantly. Shield frequencies shattered. Fragments of alien hulls spun into vapor trails. "Counter fire!" screamed Tvorak. "Fire everything!" But the humans were already moving. Their ships didn't advance in linear formations, they swarmed like predators, vanishing and reappearing through microfold jump. For every alien volley fired, 100 human counterstrikes answered. The Bridge of the Vengeance. Rhea stood motionless at the center of her command deck, surrounded by glowing tactical holos. "Enemy flagship identified," reported Commander Chen. "Marking Strategos Tvorak's vessel." "Lock on with vortex lances," Rhea said. "Full output." Across the Vengeance's dorsal spine, 6 cannons rotated and aligned. Their cores glowed white-hot, bending light around them. "Admiral," said Chen quietly. "They're hailing us." Rhea nodded. "Put it through." The alien Stratego's face appeared on the holo, filled with panic and disbelief. "Admiral Donovan," he spat, "you think this will end well for you? You're surrounded." Rhea tilted her head. "You're mistaken," he snarled. "We are the Coalition. You are nothing but primitives." Rhea smiled faintly. "Then why are you the ones calling for help?" The line went dead as she gave the order. "Fire!" The Vengeance's main lances unleashed. 6 beams of condensed matter energy ripped through vacuum, colliding with Tvorak's defensive fleet. Space lit up brighter than a sun. The Stratego's screen exploded, and the entire command sector went dark. The collapse. All across the battlefield, alien formations broke. Their ships tried to retreat, but human interdiction grids cut off every path. Drones swarmed their carriers. Railgun slugs shredded their engines before they could even charge. Coalition comms flooded with despair. "They're everywhere. Our shields, nothing works. They're jamming our minds. No, no, make it stop." Human war AIs infiltrated their systems, overriding targeting arrays and turning friendly fire into chaos. In less than 30 minutes, half the Coalition's reinforcements were gone. And the humans hadn't lost a single major vessel. Tvorak's last stand. His flagship drifted, smoke filling the bridge. Sparks rained from broken panels. "Reactors overloading," shouted his engineer. "Shields offline." Tvorak stumbled to the viewport and stared at the advancing human fleet. They moved in silence, an entire civilization forged by suffering, united by survival, marching through the stars with precision born from rage. He whispered, "No species should wield such power." Behind him, his aide trembled. "Strategos' orders?" Tvorak closed his eyes. "Send one last message to the Council. Tell them humanity doesn't fight for conquest. They fight for vengeance." Before the message could transmit, a rail slug pierced the flagship's hull. The bridge vanished in light. Aftermath. The battlefield fell silent. Human ships held position among the wreckage. Debris glimmered like dying stars. On the Vengeance's bridge, Rhea watched the readings flatten. No remaining hostiles. "Status?" she asked. Chen's voice was calm. "All enemy fleets destroyed or fleeing. Minimal human casualties. We've secured the system." Rhea nodded slowly. "Good. Begin rescue operations for survivors. Coalition or not, they're still lives." Chen gave her a look. "Mercy." "Always," Rhea said. "That's the difference between us and them." She turned to face the viewport, the ruins of the greatest alien armada drifting before her. "Transmit a message to all frequencies," she ordered. "Short, clear, and direct." Chen smiled faintly. "Message." Rhea looked out into the dark and said, "Humanity has arrived." The war that began as a whisper had become a thunderstorm. Hours after the human fleet's arrival, Vexor Delta was no longer a star system, It was a battlefield stretching across light minutes. Every orbit burned. Every moon carried scars. Every shadow flickered with the trails of railgun slugs and plasma lances. The coalition armada, or what remained of it, was rallying for a counterstrike. Despite catastrophic losses, hundreds of ships still lingered, battered, desperate, but not yet broken. Their commanders had sworn oaths to hold the system or die trying. And humanity intended to grant them that choice. The calm before the fire. Aboard the UHS Vengeance, Admiral Rhea Donovan stood in the observation dome, the reflection of distant explosions gleaming in her eyes. Her fleet was arrayed like a blade drawn across the stars, carriers forming the hilt, dreadnoughts the edge, strike craft glimmering like sparks along its length. Coalition forces regrouping around Vexor Prime, reported Commander Imani Chen. Multiple shield signatures. They're digging in. Let them, Rhea said. We'll break them where they stand. Chen hesitated. They're trying to protect civilians planetside. Rhea's voice softened. Then we'll aim high. She turned toward the tactical display. Red icons representing enemy fleets clustered around the planet's orbit. Blue human markers began to move, fluid, coordinated, relentless. Deploy all interceptor wings, Rhea ordered. Target command ships first. I want their coordination gone before their courage returns. Into the inferno. Human fighters erupted from their hangars, sleek, angular vessels running dark hull stealth plating. Swarms of AI-linked drones followed, forming shifting formations that danced through enemy fire like living constellations. Coalition capital ships launched counterfire, massive beams lancing through space. But the humans were already gone, flickering between coordinates in microfold jump. The UHS Resolute, under Admiral Tanaka, cut through the flank with terrifying grace. Its railguns fired in triplets, each slug punching through 3 enemy cruisers before disintegrating. The debris glowed like shooting stars against the void. Commodore Vargas's carrier group Nemesis unleashed waves of atmospheric-capable strike bombers, diving into the planet's upper atmosphere to destroy orbital defenses before looping back into space. From the surface, the night sky became a storm of falling light. Enemy formations collapsing. Vargas shouted through comms. We're cutting their command links. The human war machine. On board the Vengeance, crew members worked in unison. Hundreds of stations glowed, each one connected to the fleet's quantum lattice, thousands of human minds and AI cores operating as one consciousness. Admiral, said Chen, Vexor Prime's defense grid is charging planetary cannons. Rhea narrowed her eyes. We warned them. Her hand lowered onto the armrest of her command chair. Initiate orbital suppression pattern Delta 6. Rail batteries, fire. From across the fleet, the order echoed. Dozens of dreadnoughts adjusted aim toward the planet's orbital guns. When they fired, it was not with fire or light, but silence. The kinetic slugs moved faster than the human eye could follow, slamming into their targets seconds later. The Coalition's planetary guns detonated in bright blue arc. Ground-to-orbit communication towers collapsed into molten glass. Within minutes, the human fleet held complete orbital control. On the surface, far below, the alien city of Vexor Prime capital trembled. The sky shimmered with reentry streaks, the sound of thunder rolling through the atmosphere as drop pods fell like meteors. From one of them emerged Captain Arjun Reyes, commander of the 3rd Orbital Marine Division. He landed in a crater of molten soil, armor gleaming with anti-plasma coating. All units push to the central command tower, he barked. Priority 1. Secure alien civilians, neutralize hostile command. His troops moved like clockwork. Autonomous drones scanned for resistance, while medics tended to wounded aliens, friend and foe alike. An injured Vorthan soldier stared up at Reyes, mandibles trembling. Why do you save us? Reyes crouched beside him. Because we don't exterminate. We finish fights. He looked up at the burning sky and smiled grimly. And we just finished yours. The Strategos returns. Against all odds, Strategos Dvorak survived. His damaged escape cruiser limped into Vexor Prime's orbit, hull cracked, engines sputtering. On his hollow display, he saw the impossible: human ships everywhere, silent and methodical. The coalition reinforcements had disintegrated. He opened a channel on all frequencies. To the human admiral, I am Dvorak of the Dominion. You have defeated us. What now? Moments later, Admiral Donovan's face appeared, calm and expressionless. Now, she said. Now you listen. You thought humanity's mercy was weakness. You took our silence for fear. You fired on our medics and bombed our colonies. Her tone hardened, eyes cold as deep space. We don't conquer, Dvorak. We end threats. This war ends here. If you surrender, we rebuild together. If not, there will be no next time. Dvorak's mandibles twitched. He saw no arrogance in her eyes, only conviction. Slowly, he lowered his crest. I surrender, he said quietly. May the stars forgive us. The end of the battle. Coalition ships powered down one by one, weapons cooling, engines flickering into silence. The human fleet ceased fire in perfect unison, the void falling still once more. Rhea exhaled softly. All units, stand down. Begin rescue and recovery protocols. Prioritize life over debris. Chen nodded. Admiral, you just ended the largest battle in recorded galactic history. Rhea's expression didn't change. No. We prevented the next one. She turned toward the viewport. The light from Vexor Prime's burning horizon cast a faint glow across her face. Send a message to Earth Command, she said. Tell them the coalition called for backup, and we answered. Aftermath in the stars. Days later, the battlefield quieted. Human engineers built temporary orbital platforms to aid survivors. Coalition prisoners received food, water, and medicine. News of humanity's victory spread across every known network. On dozens of worlds, alien leaders held emergency meetings. Some whispered fear. Others spoke of treaties. A few called humanity monsters. But all agreed on one thing: Earth had changed the balance forever. Rhea's reflection. In her quarters aboard the Vengeance, Admiral Donovan gazed at the stars beyond the viewport. Her reflection stared back, tired, resolute, human. Commander Chen entered quietly. We've received transmission from the Coalition High Council. They want negotiations. Rhea nodded. Good. We'll talk. But they'll talk to us as equals now. Chen hesitated. Do you think they'll ever forgive us? Rhea gave a small, distant smile. Forgive? No. But they'll remember. She looked once more at the stars, each one a silent witness to humanity's arrival. They called for backup, she whispered. And we brought a reckoning. The galaxy had gone silent. Days turned into weeks after the Battle of Vexor Delta, and still no one challenged the Terran fleet. The humans didn't press the attack. They didn't occupy planets or demand tribute. They simply stayed, repairing ships, helping refugees, and sending one clear message to every species watching. We are not conquerors. We are the consequence of your arrogance. 1. The Council of Ashes. The ruins of the Coalition's Grand Council Hall floated in orbit above what had once been the political heart of the galaxy. Where once delegates debated under shimmering banners, now only twisted metal and drifting debris remained. It was here, aboard a temporary station built by human engineers, that Admiral Rhea Donovan awaited the surviving alien leaders. One by one they arrived, representatives from the Vorthan Dominion, the Alaris Ascendancy, and the Hrax Continuum, all humbled, all silent. The room was circular, designed for equality, but everyone knew who held the center now. Rhea stood at the table, her black admiral's coat lined with silver thread, her eyes sharp but calm. Behind her floated a holographic projection of Earth's emblem, a blue-white sphere surrounded by the olive branches of peace. Before we begin, Rhea said, voice carrying quiet authority, let's make one thing clear. Humanity didn't start this war. The Vorthan Strategos Dvorak, wrapped in healing braces, lowered his crest. We attacked because we believed you weak. Rhea nodded. And you were wrong. A hush fell. No gloating. No cruelty. Just truth. You called for backup, Rhea continued softly. You asked your empires, your allies, your gods to save you. But the ones who came were us. Too, the reckoning. Rhea gestured, and holograms filled the room. Footage of alien bombardments on human colonies, hospitals burning, refugees drifting through void stations. Then, footage of Earth's response. The fleets, the evacuations, the rebuilding effort. You wanted us to beg, she said quietly. Instead, we built ships that ended your fleets in hours. Not because we wanted vengeance, but because we had to. Tvorak stared at the images. You could have exterminated us. Why didn't you? Rhea's expression softened. Because mercy is the only thing that separates us from monsters. For a long time, no one spoke. The hum of the station filled the silence, a quiet reminder of what unity could sound like. Then Rhea tapped the table, bringing up a new projection, a charter document glowing faintly blue. This is the Accord of Vexor, she said. A new set of laws. Every species that signs agrees. No biological or planetary warfare, no slavery, no attacks on medical or relief vessels. Ever again. The Alaris delegate, a shimmering being of light and crystal, tilted its head. And if someone breaks it? Rhea's gaze turned cold as iron. Then Earth will come knocking. Again. 3. The message. 3 days later, every network across the galaxy received the same transmission. It began with static, then slowly resolved into the image of Earth's flag, a simple blue and white field surrounded by stars. Then came Rhea's voice, steady, unflinching. To all civilizations of the known galaxy, humanity does not seek war. We seek peace, earned, not given. But make no mistake. If you raise a weapon against our people, if you target our children, our healers, our colonies, we will answer. Not with words, not with mercy, but with finality. The days of looking down on humanity are over. You called for backup once. You won't survive calling again. The broadcast ended. For the first time in centuries, galactic traffic stilled. Armies stood down. Empires reviewed their war budget. The galaxy had seen enough. 4. The human homecoming. Weeks later, the fleet began its journey home. The UHS Vengeance, its hull still scorched from battle, led the procession through the slipstream gates. Crew members stood at the observation decks, watching stars blur into streaks of light. Commander Imani Chun approached Rhea on the bridge. Orders from Earth Command. Full honors on arrival. You'll be decorated across every major world. Rhea shook her head. The heroes are the ones who didn't make it back. Chen smiled faintly. You think the galaxy will ever understand us? Rhea glanced out the viewport, watching as a human aid frigate escorted alien refugee ships toward safety. They don't have to understand us, she said. They just have to remember. 5. The Fallen. A week later, the fleet entered Sol System. The sight made every human aboard fall silent. Earth filled the viewport, blue, alive, whole. Space stations glittered like diamonds around the moon. Civilian ships broadcast welcome signals, and across the world, lights flared as billions looked to the sky to greet their returning defenders. In orbit, a massive memorial ship drifted silently, the UHS Monument, carrying the names of every human lost in the war. Rhea stood before its vast hull, running her hand along the engraved metal. We fought so they wouldn't be forgotten, she whispered. And now the stars know their names. 6. The Dawn of the Accord. Months later, the Accord of Vexor was ratified. For the first time, every major species signed a single galactic law under human moderation. Trade routes reopened. Science councils formed. The first joint colony, Haven Prime, was established under shared protection, its founding ceremony led by both human and alien officers. And though old fears lingered, one truth held steady in every corridor of power: whispered in every Senate chamber and command deck. If you want peace, keep it. If you want war, pray Earth doesn't answer. 7. Epilogue, Rhea's Legacy. Years later, Admiral Rhea Donovan retired quietly to a coastal base in the Pacific. She watched ships pass through orbit every night, their lights reflected in the wave. Visitors came sometimes, young officers, alien diplomats, reporters, but she rarely spoke of the war. One evening, as the tide rolled in, a small child approached her, barefoot, human, holding a model starship. "Did you really fight in the Battle of Vexor?" the child asked. Rhea smiled faintly. "I helped stop it." The child frowned. "Stop it?" Rhea looked toward the sky, where faint lines of human starships glowed like constellations. "Because fighting is easy," she said softly. "Ending the reason for fighting, that's harder." The waves whispered against the shore. The galaxy beyond turned slowly, silently, and, for the first time in generations, peacefully. Final line. "They called for backup," Rhea said once long ago. "And humanity answered with a fleet and a future."